Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
And that is exactly how I am feeling, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't laugh, you cry. Or in the case of Walter White in the episode Crawl Space, for those of you that are Breaking Bad fans, you'll just go absolutely insane, go crazy, because that is officially where I think I am. I think the Mets have actually driven me to the point of insanity, as it seems like the Mets are finally going to break out, that they are going to finally get off of this schneid, this 6-game losing streak that they have been riding. Their offense, which has just been horrific lately. And they come out and they score in the first inning 2 runs. They score again in the second inning. They score a couple more runs in the fourth. They score in each of the first 4 innings of this game to stake them to a 5-0 lead. And you're thinking, maybe this is the game. This is the one that turns the tide for the New York Mets in 2025. This is the one that gets them off of this losing streak, that gets them heading back right into the correct path. And then all of a sudden, it all starts to just melt down before our very eyes. Sean Manaea, who was our chief warrior, whatever you want to call it, from last year, hasn't exactly been tremendous in his couple of starts returning from the injury list this season, but gets a really solid first 4 innings for us. And then things start to derail for this train. Gives up 3 runs in the 5th inning. All of a sudden, it's a 5-3 game. The Mets come right back. You get a bloop double from Pete Alonso to make it 6-3. And the very next half inning, Sean Manaea can't even get an out in the 5th inning. You've probably heard that before, haven't you? This is now 53 consecutive games where a starting pitcher for the Mets, not named David Peterson, has failed to log a start of 6 innings or longer. That is a record since the year 1901, before the First World War. And it may have even went further than that. It might have even went to the Civil War era, because they actually didn't keep track of these kinds of stats back in time then. The Mets are setting history for all of the wrong reasons, as they are summoning the bullpen, and Reed Garrett gives up a 2-run homer to Wilson Contreras, his 2nd homer of the game. And all of a sudden it is 6-5. The Brewers then in the 8th inning with 2 outs and 2 strikes. How many times has that happened to the Mets lately? They get to 2 outs and 2 strikes, and somehow the opponent finds a way to come through in the clutch. Something that the Mets lineup could never, in their wildest dreams, ever hope to do. As they get a game-tying RBI single, they come all the way back from down 5-0 to tie it at 6 apiece in the 8th inning off of our newest acquisition from the deadline in Ryan Helsley. Diaz able to get the final out of that inning, but let's be honest, we all knew. Once they tied this game at 6 apiece, there was no chance that the Mets were going to win this game, as the leadoff batter in the bottom of the 9th hits a walk-off homer off Edwin Diaz, and the Mets are swept out of Milwaukee. They have lost 7 consecutive games. They have lost 5 games in the standings to the Phillies over the last week. They are now just 1.5 games ahead of the Cincinnati Reds for the final wild card spot in the National League. They are just 8 games over 500, when at one time in the 2025 season they were 21 31 games above 500. The New York Mets are an absolute dumpster fire, a train, a locomotive that has gone completely off the rails, and I am getting closer and closer by the game to saying that this team is going to be one of the most epic fails of all time. Guys, what's up? I'm Tony Metro. Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you all tuning in. If you're new to the channel, I do daily Mets content, post-game recap after every single Mets game and everything in between. Be sure to subscribe if you are not already. Be sure to leave this video a like. I really appreciate that. It helps keeping things going over here. And the same if you guys want to tip the stream here. All that goes to Mookie's Bone Funds. If you don't know who Mookie is, that's my 99-pound German Shepherd named, of course, after Mookie Wilson. So I appreciate that. You can do it through Super Chats or the link to the tip jar that is in the description of this video. But guys, the New York Mets may be dead. The Mets may officially be dead. They jump out to a 5-0 lead today after the way they have played over the last 2 weeks, really since that series in San Diego. So let's do a little back to the future, or whatever you want to call it, where the Mets were in San Francisco. They sweep the Giants in a 3-game series before the trade deadline. And then they go to San Diego and they are leading the opening game of that series 5-1 after Mark Vientos hits a grand slam. And we're thinking, my goodness, the good times are rolling. We are on a 7-game winning streak. Nothing can stop us. Now we are going to be neck and neck with the Phillies the whole way through, probably. But I think we're in a good spot. And what transpired since that Monday night against the Padres, where they rally for 5 runs in the next half inning off of Frankie Montas and Huascar Brazoban, they end up going on to win that game. They win the next game and they end up sweeping the Mets in that 3-game series, a team that we were competing with for one of the wild card spots at that time. We are now trailing the Padres by a significant margin since then. They get swept by San Diego. They return home, and I said, you know what? We got the Giants, who just sold at the deadline. You got the Guardians, who, although they were playing better baseball, had definitely underachieved this year. And I said the Mets should go 5-1 on this homestand, no questions about it. And the Mets end up going the exact opposite. They inverse that record, and instead of going 5-1 on that homestand against the Giants and against the Guardians, they go 1-5. They are nearly no hit by Cleveland in the final game of that series. And we knew things weren't going to get easier because they were playing the Brewers on the road. We knew that things weren't going to get any easier because they were going to be playing the team with the best record in baseball. But on Friday night, they had an opportunity to win that game. They blow that one. Yesterday, they jump out to a couple of different leads, and again, they blow it yesterday. You have a catcher's interference on Friday. Yesterday, you have a pitch clock violation. You just shit you can't make up. New ways to lose since 1962. The catchphrase of the New York Mets. They haven't adopted it yet, but honestly, I think I'm going to trademark it because they probably should. And then today, the Mets bats finally break out. They score in each of the first 4-5 innings of this freaking ball game, and they are winning 5-0. And I'm thinking, maybe this is the one that finally turns the tide for this team. And we just slowly watch them die in front of our eyes. Sean Manaea has his blow-up inning in the 5th. Reed Garrett isn't any better in relief. Ryan Helsley can't get the job done in the 8th inning. 2 outs, 2 strikes. And then Edwin Diaz ends up giving up the walk-off home run to the leadoff batter in the 9th. All the meanwhile, the 6th inning through the 9th, the Mets lineup was absolutely shut down just the same way that we have seen them be shut down for so many long streaks throughout this season. I really, truly do think that this season is hanging by a thread and that they may, in fact, be dead. I'm not trying to rhyme. It just happened to go that way. This is horrible, guys. Let me go to the chat really quick. Let's see what's popping off. Stefan, hi, Tone. Hope you've settled down. No, I really never got mad this weekend. I got to be honest, guys. Like I've said to you before, it starts as anger, and then it eventually, when you keep seeing the same thing on repeat so many times, it turns into apathy. It turns into just complete what's the word? I mean, I really need a Merriam-Webster here next to me so when I can't think of these words. It just it completely has turned into I don't care at this point. I just at this point can't be mad about it anymore. So I appreciate it, Stefan. I'm not mad though. I'm not mad because I expected this to happen. I expected when the Mets had a 5-0 lead and turned to 5-3, and then it was 6-3, then it was 6-5, and then it was 6-6, that the Mets were not going to win this game. So it is just incredibly frustrating, but at this point, I am in those stages of grief where I'm probably at acceptance now. And I understand this is not a World Series winning team. Stefan said the Reds and Giants going to eat the Mets for the wild card ticket. I mean, it's looking that way more and more by the day. The Reds gain another game on the Mets today as they win their ball game. The Mets, of course, lose again. They're 7th in a row, and the Mets have just a 1.5 game lead for the final wild card spot in the National League. How pathetic, how embarrassing to be where we are right now, that we were earlier, maybe just 2 weeks ago, a whole, half a game ahead of the Phillies for the National League East. We had the best record in the National League, and now we are just hoping that we can scrape together enough change to have one of the best 6 records in baseball to hold on to one of the final wild card spots. What an absolute embarrassment for this New York Mets team. I am disgusted. Explosive diarrhea. I have not seen you in a long time. What's up, man? He says, imagine if Cohen didn't bring in Soto and Pete, we would be top 5 worst teams in Major League Baseball. You know, you're not wrong. Problem is, even those guys ain't really doing a whole lot. I mean, today, good day for Pete and Soto. Yeah, definitely. But we've been talking about it since the All-Star break. Pete, Soto, Lindor, Nimmo, all those dudes, the Fab Four, have been brutal since the All-Star break. Pretty much since the tweet from Steve Cohen after that win in Baltimore when he dubbed them the Fab Four, have been brutal for this team. So we get all hung up on, hey, what's Brett Beatty been doing? What has Ronnie Mauricio and Mark Vientos and Francisco Alvarez been doing? And when Luis Angel Acuna was on this roster, we get upset that they haven't lived up to expectations and taken their steps forward as young players in the league. But meanwhile, it's been the big four not getting the job done. But yeah, imagine if you also didn't have Pete, even though he obviously hasn't been playing super, great lately, but it would be even worse. Somehow this team is 8 games over 500. Somehow. Can't even imagine it. Rod says, when the offseason, I'm sorry, you put a period. When the offseason rolls around, trade everyone, let Alonso walk for Alonso's sake, and just get prospects. No, we are not doing a rebuild. We're not doing a full rebuild, Rod. I mean, I get it. I sometimes feel the same way. Like, let's blow this entire roster up. I thought they were going to do that last year before they started to turn things around in June. But, I mean, you can't blow up this roster. For whatever reason, though, it's not working this year for Lindor. Soto has been up and down. Pete has been up and down. Nimmo has been as well. And, of course, the real biggest cause is you haven't gotten good starting pitching. Guys, 53 consecutive games that the Mets have not had 2 different starting pitchers record a start of 6 innings or more. It is a record, the most since 1901. And they actually said it on SNY with that graphic, since at least 1901, meaning they weren't even keeping track of those stats before 1901. So it may have been a more than 125-year record that the Mets just broke for all the wrong reasons. The starting pitching doesn't do its job. The bullpen didn't do its job today, while it has been basically perfect since the All-Star break. Then the lineup, which has been the consistent issue the entire season, of course, breaks out for 6 runs in the first 5 innings and then puts the brakes on, does absolutely nothing. And guys, by the way, it's not going to get any easier because now we have Atlanta coming to Citi Field. And even though Atlanta is dog shit this year, guess what? The Mets don't know how to beat the Braves. And who do you think is on the mound facing off against the Mets on Tuesday? That's right, Spencer Strider, who absolutely owns the Mets. Would not be surprised to see this team 7 games over 500 by the end of Tuesday night. They are falling apart, completely melting, and watching their playoff hopes just slip between their fingertips. This has been some horrible baseball from the New York Mets. Let me go back to the chat. Sandman Games, Tony the Legend, and Mookie, I appreciate it. OMG to SMH. Sandman, you definitely coined that one. OMG to SMH. You've been commenting that one for a couple of weeks now, so I got to give credit where it is due. I'm going to get an SMH Mets themed sign and put it right here on my backdrop over here. I love you, Sandman. Appreciate you coming in, man. Here comes the Reds, he says. Yes, no doubt. Stefan says Mendy and his staff lost it totally. If the Mets grab a wild card ticket, the season is already a success. I mean, look, if the Mets make the wild card at this point, I might be doing backflips because I don't see how this team is making the playoffs. This team is so bad right now. It is unbelievable what has happened to them. 5-0 lead. I'm getting calls from my buddies. This is it. They're going to come out of it. Even I said, don't go so fast, not so fast. Let's watch how the rest of this one goes. And I'm not saying that I predicted they were going to lose or I am happy that they lost today, but the way they have been playing baseball lately, I am not shocked by any means that the Mets did not win this game here today. Red Bear Fox says, I think we need to admit to ourselves this is a bad team. They were good for 1 month and they have been a mediocre to bad since. This defines a bad team. We are coming across so desperate trying to say that the team is good and will come around. I agree with you, Red Bear Fox, 100%. And a lot of people, myself, you, some other fans here, some other subscribers, and then also my buddies over at Mets Weekly were saying even when the Mets were winning games and we were playing the likes of the Nationals and the Rockies and the White Sox and the Pirates, some of the lower tier teams, we were saying this is not winning baseball. They would win games 3-2 where they would get some really gutty relief pitching, where they would get a lucky base hit here or there. But we were saying during those times that this does not look like a World Series team. And a lot of fans, the positive Mets fans, would say, oh, you're just being a hater and that's crazy. Look at our record. We're 20 games over 500. I couldn't imagine being such a hater if I was you. And this is what we were talking about. That, yeah, they built up a really nice, healthy record in the first month or so of this season, but since then, it has been anything but. They do not pick the ball well in the field. They do not have good starting pitching. Their relievers are up and down. They had been tremendous up until today. And the lineup, the most consistently awful part of this team. From wire to wire, the Mets lineup has been a massive letdown. David Stearns went into this season believing that one of Mauricio, Beatty, Acuna, and Alvarez were going to take significant steps forward toward becoming impactful offensive talents for this team. And none of them have done it. In fact, I would say all of them have taken a step backwards, and that is without even accounting for Mark Vientos, who has probably taken 5 steps backwards from what he did in 2024, something he probably didn't believe was going to happen. This Mets team has been an outright disaster from June up until this very moment right now. And now we are seeing it all happen in front of our very eyes. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you guys are not already subscribed, be sure to do that. Daily Mets content, post-game recap after every single Mets game. If you guys want to tip the stream, I really appreciate that. Keep things going here. It all goes to my dog Mookie's Bone Funds, my German Shepherd right here next to me, of course, named after Mookie Wilson. You could do super chats or you could send it to the tip jar. The link for that is in the bio. But guys, really, really do appreciate you all being in. Another brutal loss for the Mets. Another horrible, brutal, ugly loss for the Mets. And who's surprised at this point? Honestly, this is what they have been for the 2+ months since June that we have been watching. They have been a bad baseball team. They have been one of the worst teams at hitting with runners in scoring position. Their starting pitching can't give you any link. They seem to have that ugly, horrible blow-up inning every single game. If you want to go all the way back to the opener of the series against the Tampa Bay Rays, I think that must have been in June, right? Yeah, when this whole thing kind of began, when they pulled Clay Holmes early, and then they ended up going to Max Kranick, who blew the game in that inning. I think it was the 5th. This has been an ongoing theme. It has been Groundhog's Day over and over for the New York Mets, and I am sick to my stomach about it. I cannot believe how bad the Mets have been now for 2+ months, how bad they have been now in the last 2 weeks, and just completely exposed against the likes of the Guardians, Padres, and the Brewers here now over the last 2 weeks. Let me go back to the chat. Pro Wheels, oh boy, wait, we skipped a bunch of the chat here. Let me get back. Pro Wheels 2007 is repeating again. Joke of a team. At least this year, we could tune out early. In 2007, it was so late when the Mets had their epic collapse in the final 17 games, up 7.5 games on the Phillies for the division, that at least now we can see it ahead of time and we don't have to be as invested as we were when the Mets blew that season in 2007. Pro Wheels says, joke of a team, explosive diarrhea. Hey to Sandman. He says, Tony, we need the gimmicks back. It seems like the Mets can only win when there are gimmicks. It seems like the Mets can only do good when they have Grimace and they have Glizzy, the hot dog eating dog, and they have the rally pimp, and they have Seymour Wiener, and they have the gay Mets of 2024 back in June. It's so ridiculous. I don't understand. Why can't this team do anything the proper way? Why can't we just wire to wire be one of the best teams in baseball? We got it in 2022. They won 101 games, and then what happened? They fizzled out. Like, why can't we just be one of the best teams in baseball? We have some of the best people in our front office. We have some of the best, most talented players on this roster. And yet the Mets seemingly can never win without the gimmicks, without the miracle run. Look at 1969, obviously. Look at 1986. Even when the Mets won that World Series where they were dominant and won 108 games in the regular season, it took an absolute miracle for them to win the Fall Classic against the Red Sox with the ball going in between Buckner's legs. It just doesn't make any sense. The Mets only seem to come through when magic is on their side. We went into this year thinking they have World Series aspirations. This is a World Series roster. Nope. We are here just to watch them embarrass themselves on a daily basis now. Let me go back to the chat. Stefan says, really strange how that Senga injury started at all with that throw from Pete at first base. Yeah, it is. And then I actually saw Pete make a nice throw to Senga on Friday in his start against the Brewers, and they ended up getting the out there. And I thought, wow, that might be it. Maybe just, if I'm thinking just in terms of, magical kind of feelings, like maybe that is what's going to turn this season around. But nope, not the case, because the Mets blow Friday, they blow Saturday's game, and they blow this one, which may actually be the most painful of all 3 games. And that is really saying something when on Friday, Marte is thrown out at the plate as the potential game-tying run for the final out of the game. And then yesterday, the Mets having a 3-2 lead, a 2-0 lead, how many leads did the Mets blow yesterday? And then today, 5-0. They blow this game today. It is just unbelievable what we are watching here, folks. Madeline Schmidt, horrible. Absolutely a disgrace. I am right there with you, Madeline. Thank you for tuning in. Yes, this is awful. This is disgusting. I am ready to puke. I probably already did in my mouth a couple of times from watching this team over the weekend. They have lost 7 in a row. They have lost 4 consecutive series. They have been swept in 3 of those 4 series, and they have now lost 10 of 11. This is despicable. Back to the chat. Danny Caps, I keep saying they're trying to send a message to Cohen and Stearns playing like this. What's the message? Fire all of us? Is that the message that these players are trying to send to the front office and to the owner of this team? Because he's not going to do that, obviously. But the message to me is, you guys suck. We should get rid of all of you guys. This is insane. I have been saying for months, fire Eric Chavez. Number one, I don't think that this is a good hitting approach and philosophy that he has instituted on this team. You don't have this many players with the resumes that they have as big league players and all collectively go into a slump at the same time like they have. Okay, so that would be the number one thing. Fire Eric Chavez, at the very least, just to kind of light a fire under the ass of these guys. Just make a change for the sake of a change. But what else is going to happen? These guys obviously are not living up to their abilities, whether it's the Fab Four, who we thought was going to help carry this team with some contributions from the young guys, which really we have barely got him from at all this year. This team stinks. That's it. We are finally, I think, at the point where we can call the spade a spade. This team stinks. The Mets are now 8 games over 500, when at one point they were 21 games over 500. They are now 5.5 games behind the Phillies for first place in the NL East, and just barely holding on to the final wild card spot by 1.5 games over the freaking Cincinnati Reds. It is unbelievable. Danny Cap says, at this point, all I can do now is shake my head and laugh. And that is why I played the Walter White Breaking Bad clip from that show here in the beginning of the stream, because honestly, I've gone crazy. It's either I'm going crazy or you laugh. So you either laugh or you cry, and that is exactly how I am feeling about this team. Joe says, the Mets fans crying in the stands says it. Oh, I didn't see that, but I would have been one of those Mets fans probably crying in the stands. I mean, probably 10, 20 years ago. Yeah, 20 when I was 10. Now I'm 30, so that'd be a little weird if I was crying in the stands, but I didn't see that, Joe. But yep, it definitely says it all. 2Cat says, fact or fiction, the Mets will be the first team in MLB history to be 21 games above 500 and end up with a losing record. I am going to say fiction on that. I don't think that they're going to finish with a losing record, but I am definitely leaning toward the Mets finishing closer to 81-81 than I am to them finishing with a 90-win season and making the playoffs 100%. Jimmy James C says, I hope Mets fans don't attend any games until they get it together. The actual stretch of good baseball, 0 attendance until then. Unfortunately, that won't be the case, but I am with you, and if I lived in New York still, I would 100% not be attending games until they turned it around. That is why, as you guys know, I don't wear the jerseys for the streams when the Mets are playing poorly. I don't give the Mets the respect that they want when they are not giving the respect to us as fans with their performance on the field. To blow a 5-0 lead today, to blow multiple leads yesterday, to have a catcher's interference and errors on Friday and blow that game as well, to get swept by the Guardians, nearly no hit, to get swept by the Brewers today, to get swept by San Diego, to lose 2 out of 3 to the Giants, who just sold at the deadline. This is an embarrassment, and we as fans deserve so much better. Explosive diarrhea, or I'm sorry, let me go to Red Bear Fox first. Let's see. He says 2 past messages here. Camera pan to a Pat Murphy, and my wife says, whoa, he looks like hard-nosed, no nonsense. I said, that's why the Brewers are the best in MLB. I asked what she thinks when she sees. I mean, look, the Brewers are the best in Major League Baseball. They have the best record. I'm going to be honest, I'm not moved by them. I'm sorry. The ball's hitting chalk. The Mets making the errors. They made the catcher's interference. The pitch clock violation. I mean, I'm not moved by the Brewers. They're going to do what they do every single season. They're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs. This is what always happens to them, and I can't wait for it, because I had a lot of Brewers fans on Friday commenting on that live stream that were really just kind of pricks. And I got to be honest, I don't know why, because I had nothing but complimentary things to say about Milwaukee in that stream, but they were very sensitive, very sensitive, the Brewers fans. So good for them. Great. They have the best record in baseball. How many times have they done this when David Stearns was their general manager? Pretty much every single season. So great for the Brewers to have the best record in baseball. They ain't winning shit this postseason, and I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to watch when their luck runs out. The Mets are in a terrible rut. The Brewers are just playing with a jackpot of gold on the end of the rainbow. Good for the Brewers. Congratulations. We'll see you at Cancun probably the week after the division series. Let's see. Explosive Diarrhea says we could have swept this series. Maybe we should have. Well, I wouldn't say could have swept. I would say, yeah, when you had leads in all of these games, especially on Friday and yesterday and today, yeah, I'm with you. But this Mets team finds new ways to lose again. Like I said, finding new ways to lose since 1962. I'm going to get through the rest of this chat, and then we're going to listen to what Carlos Mendoza and the rest of the team had to say after another embarrassing loss for the New York Mets. 7 in a row. 10 of 11. They are now just 8 games over 500, guys. Be sure to subscribe if you're not already. Daily Mets content, post-game recap after every single Mets game. If you want to tip the stream and keep things going here, really appreciate that. You could do super chats, or you go to the link in the bio. That'll take you to the tip jar. So thank you very much for all of that. Let's see. It was, where did I leave off? I think with explosive diarrhea, was it? It always gets messed up here when I'm looking at the chat. No, it was yes, it was Red Bear Fox. He said Mendoza said she said he Mendoza and she said he looks laid back and weak, which is what the Mets are. So that is what your wife said about Carlos Mendoza, that he looks laid back and weak, and so are the Mets. I feel like Carlos Mendoza, for the most part, kind of puts on like a very straightforward face, right? Like I feel like he's very even keeled, and there were definitely a lot of mistakes from Mendoza in this series and throughout the last 2 weeks. So I'm not absolving him from the Mets issues right now. But yeah, I mean, Pat Murphy kind of looks like the hard-nosed guy and Mendoza doesn't, but obviously that's the case after you just got swept and you've lost your 7th consecutive game. Explosive Diarrhea says, yeah, we could have swept this series. And then Explosive said, the bullpen going to break down soon. They are being used a lot. Yeah, the bullpen has been taxed and they have been excellent lately, but what are you going to do? You're chasing games all the time. You're trying to keep them close. We didn't like seeing Chris Stavinsky and Brandon Waddell and Rico Garcia and all the other no-name quadruple A scrubs off the street from independent ball pitching games when it was 4-3, where the Mets were losing 5-3. But now Mendoza is trying to keep games close with those guys, with the Ryan Helsleys and with the Tyler Rogers and with Gregory Soto. And the Mets offense is letting them down and spitting the bit. So what are you going to do? Yes, 100%. They are not going to last long because this starting rotation can't go past 5 innings. In fact, most of the time, they're not even getting a complete 5 innings for this team. Like I said earlier, 53 consecutive games without a pitcher not named David Peterson recording a start of 6 innings or more. You are living dangerously if you think you can win ball games like that. It is not sustainable. Stefan says Mets have to realize that sweeping the Braves changes this whole season or win the series at least. It'd be great to win the series. At this point, it doesn't matter who the opponent is. The Mets just need to start winning games. The Mets just need to start getting W's back in that column, because right now we are watching as the Phillies just absolutely blow by us. We are watching the Padres do the same thing, the Cubs and the Brewers in their own battle for the Central. I think it'll probably be the Brewers out of the Central and the Cubs for the first wild card spot, or maybe San Diego. They'll fight for it. The Mets are basically in their spot now as the 3rd wild card team in the National League, and I don't see how it gets any better. Not based on how they have played, not based on the strength of schedule remaining for this team throughout the rest of August and September, and not based on what the Phillies have now done over the last week, gaining a 5.5 game lead over the Mets in the division. The Mets basically have the 3rd wild card spot, and that is it. That is the best they can probably do at this point. Stadium Man Games, Braves play us like it's a World Series. They always want our heads. The Braves absolutely dominate us every time. Rod says the only thing that makes me feel better is that the Yankee fans are in the same pain and in the same shithole as the Mets are. Normally, yeah, I feel really happy. I'm glad when the Yankees are losing, and I'm a Schadenfreude, as they call it, where you get pleasure out of other people's pains. I only get that from sports, obviously, not in real life. But that is how I usually feel when the Yankees are losing. But not now. I got to be honest, guys. Not now. The Yankees are getting their asses kicked, but you know what? The Mets are getting their tits lit. So who cares? We are not a playoff team based on how we have played over the last 2+ weeks, based on how we have played throughout many stretches of this season, and just barely by the records in the playoffs. The Mets are barely a postseason team in the National League. So yeah, great. The Yankees are losing, but you know what? The Mets are probably worse than the Yankees are right now. Robert Lupinacci, what's up, my man? He says, with the Mets offense tomorrow, they should fire someone to show something to their fan base. I thought they were going to do it after they nearly got no hit against the Guardians last week before going to Milwaukee, but obviously not the case. So if they didn't do it then, I don't see why they would do it now, especially after they just scored 6 runs today, all of those coming in the first 5 innings of this game. I thought they were going to do it already and fire Chavez and Jeremy Barnes, their hitting coaches, but if they haven't haven't done it to this point, I don't see that they're going to do it right now. Isaiah says, Mets fans, don't worry, the Brewer crew will take care of the Phillies in the NLCS for y'all. This Brewer team is the best team in baseball for a reason. I would chill out, Isaiah. We've seen this Brewers team have a good record in the past before, like I said, and fizzle out in the playoffs. So I would get off your high horse if I was a Brewers fan. I've seen this movie many times before. So it's okay. Go back to your World Series trophy room. Oh, wait, you guys don't have one. Or maybe you do, but it's empty. So, yeah. Anyway, Isaiah says this sport is a marathon and not a sport for a reason. Rings aren't won in May. Yeah, and they're not won in August either. So, yeah, like I said, a lot of cocky Brewer fans didn't realize those existed, especially for a franchise that has no World Series titles in their entire franchise history. But go off, Brewer fans. Enjoy your World Series here in August. Sandman Games, Mookie Bones. That's right. Donate to the fund, guys, right now. Super chats or tip jar. Link in the bio for Mookie Bones. He is sitting right here next to me, and he is over the Mets losing streak right here. Mark says, recently diagnosed with high blood pressure and my stress test Thursday. I can't watch this team anymore. I won't let them kill me. Mark, I hope you're doing well. I haven't gotten a physical or a checkup recently, but I would wager that my blood pressure is also very high, and I would be able to directly attribute that high blood pressure to the New York Mets 100%. But we hope you're doing well, Mark. You are a loyal subscriber, a loyal follower here for all of my videos and all of my streams, and I appreciate it, and I do hope that you are doing well. The best wishes to you and your health. Guys, leave this video a like if you have not already. I'm trying to wrap up the chat here before I go over to hear what Mendoza and the rest of the Mets had to say about another horrific loss for this team, their 7th in a row. But let me finish out right over here. We got Sandman Games. The highlight of my weekend was watching Jackson Dart doing his thing for your Giants. Oh, good for you, Sandman Games. I'm a freaking New York Jets fan. And even though they won 30-10 and Justin Fields ran into touchdown, I know exactly what's going to happen to the Jets this year, just like it does every single year. So not ready for football season at all. Isaiah says LMAO, right? Every big bad NL team has been taken out of the woodshed, swept Philly, swept LA twice, etc. They're the best team, and not a single argument can be made against it. Yeah, I mean, look, and I was a little harsh on the Brewers. I got a lot of Brewer fans from Friday that were for some reason being really kind of like unruly against me in that stream, even though, again, I said nothing bad against those Brewers. But the Mets are going bad, the Brewers are going hot. It was literally the immovable force versus the, what is that saying from the Oklahoma-Nebraska game back in like the 80s? I can't remember the name, or the 70s. The immovable force versus the untouchable object or something like that. Literally just an impossible task for the Mets to come out and win even a single game this weekend against Milwaukee. I give you guys credit. Congratulations. Good job. But obviously I'm a little frustrated here right now. Madeline Schmidt says, hate to say it, but go Phillies. They are playing the Reds. Unfortunately, we basically have to now scoreboard watch and hope for the wild card. It's a lose-lose situation with Philadelphia playing Cincinnati this week, but I think our best odds to make the playoffs at this point are for the Mets to get the wild card spot, the final wild card spot. So, yeah, we're going to basically have to root for the Phillies at this point. Good point, Madeline. She says, starting pitching has been crap all year. They only went 5 innings since April all season, 100%, whether it's Senga, whether it's Clay Holmes, whether it's Manaea returning from his injury, whether it's Frankie Montas, who has been an outright disaster and needed a opener yesterday in Reed Garrett. And then when Montas did come into the game in the 3rd inning, was a disaster. The starting rotation has been terrible, and I wish that David Stearns would have realized that instead of trying to get cute and sign a guy like Frankie Montas and re-sign Manaea for 3 years and $75 million. I know, the pitching lab. Oh, it's so great. It's amazing. Really? Well, hasn't been so great this year. The Mets starting pitching has been absolutely brutal. Garbage Pail Chaos, I think he says. What is a payroll like this buying? That is such a good question, Garbage Pail. I don't know. I thought that this was going to be a World Series team, a World Series roster. And I guess David Stearns put too much faith into the young guys, into the Francisco Alvarez's and Brett Beatty's and Luis Angel Acuña's and Ronnie Mauricio's, and even to a degree, the Mark Vientos's of this team, thinking that they would all, or at least 2 of them, would take a significant step forward and make this a World Series team, and they have all went backwards. And simultaneous with all of them taking huge steps back, the big four of Nimmo, Soto, Lindor, and Alonso have all been brutal for majority of this season, not the entire season, but for prolonged stretches of the 2025 season. You have the starting pitching that has been bad, that has been injured and battered. You have the bullpen that has been battered, and at one point was one of the weak links of this team, though they have gotten their act in order recently, mainly because of the acquisitions at the deadline. Really the only meaningful, impactful acquisitions at this year's deadline to improve this team. And the Mets are looking like a dead man walking here in the middle of August, and we are all just here to witness it. Madeline says, you were right, Tony, just like 2022, 2007, 2008. Yep, just another season where we fizzle out. It just happened to be a little bit earlier this year. Garbage says, it almost makes sense to just go walk the city until a migrant or a drug zombie takes you out as a New York baseball fans. Whatever that means, okay. Madeline says, Stearns needs to do something tonight now. These are desperate times. There needs to be a shakeup. There has to be something. I am not firing Carlos Mendoza. I don't think they will fire him in the middle of the season. In fact, I know that they won't fire him in the middle of this season. But again, if they don't make the playoffs this year and next year doesn't start off well, Carlos Mendoza is immediately on the hot seat, burning hot seat for his managerial position. But the easiest fix is to fire Chavez and to fire Barnes, at the very least, to shake things up in that clubhouse. I am 100% with you, Madeline. DJ Teddy says 2006 all over again. At least that team got to game 7 of the NLCS, right? I mean, that team, yeah, of course, they blew it in the moment against the Cardinals. But this team, this is like just a long, slow death that we are all watching, and it absolutely sucks. Madeline, 2006, we made the playoffs. Yeah, exactly. James Lee says, I haven't seen you in a long time. James, what's up, my man? He says, can't watch our Mets. Ruins my day. 100% with you, my man. It just absolutely kills me every time I have to sit down and watch the Mets. I watched them last night, and honestly, I couldn't do the stream because I just was over it. I just could not handle any more pain talking about the Mets after they blew another game yesterday. So I'm with you, James. Stefan says, gonna sleep, guys. 12:03 in the morning there. Appreciate you, Stefan, all the way from Amsterdam. Everyone give a big shout to Stefan HML in the chat over here. Guys, sound off in the chat. Do you think that the Mets are going to make the playoffs still? Honestly, I am at the point where I am leaning closer toward no than I am toward yes. 1.5 game lead for the third wild card spot. 5.5 games back of the Phillies. 7-game losing streak. Have lost 10 games out of 11. Have been swept in 3 of their last 4 series and lost all of them. I am at the point where I don't see how the Mets are going to make the playoffs here in 2025. Mitchell Lance says, you big Matt Ello, it's a different story this year. Yeah, okay, dude, for sure. Let me know how that goes, man. The Brewers do this every single season. Ooh, the power of friendship and heart, and we hustle. Great. Let me know how it goes in the playoffs like it does every single season for you guys. Balls off the chalk, really? That's going to continue happening? Opposite field home runs for Wilson Contreras? Okay, I'm sure that's going to continue to happen. Catcher's interference, errors. The Mets are playing their worst ball. You guys are playing your best ball. Get off your high horse. Just like your Brewers fan said earlier in this chat, World Series aren't won in May. They're also not won in August. So congrats. Enjoy this. You have the best record in baseball. You'll get knocked out in the first round like you always do, Brewers fans. Jimmy James C says, I expect them to lose at this point. So luckily, it doesn't affect my stress much anymore. I've already given up on them. I mean, basically, the 5 stages of grief, right? I think it's denial. I think it is bargaining. There's another couple in there. And then finally, it's acceptance. So, Jimmy, you have progressed to the 5th stage of grief, and I commend you on that. Congratulations. I am hoping to get there. I am almost there at this point. Depression is probably where I'm at right now, and I think the final one is acceptance. So congratulations to Jimmy James C. Everybody give it up for him. Very nicely done. Red Bear Fox says, if somehow, and I know it won't happen, Nimmo is gone next season, I'm completely fine with it. If Lindor is gone, I'm completely fine with it. If Pete is gone, I'm completely fine with it. We're at a point where we are just thinking about blowing up this roster, aren't we? That is what happens when you lose 7 games in a row, when you lose 10 of 11, and you get swept in 3 of the last 4 series. I get it, man. I get it. There is no quick fix to this team based on how they have been playing, in my opinion. I am totally with you, Red Bear Fox. This has been absolutely abhorrent baseball from the New York Mets here over the last 2 weeks. DH Ben says, irresistible force meets the immovable object. The Mets are neither. Exactly. So I was saying it in jest, but thank you for giving me the slogan, or the catchphrase. But basically, it was Oklahoma and Nebraska football, and that's what it was. It was the the irresistible force meets the immovable object. The Mets are neither, but my point was the Brewers are on such a hot streak. The Mets are on such a low for this season that it was going to be impossible for the Mets to come in and win even a single game of this series over the weekend. But yes, you know what I meant. DH Benz, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Red Bear Fox says, who cares if the Yankees are losing? It means absolutely zero to the Mets. Why be happy about the Yankees losing just so you don't have to hear your friends talk shit? 100% great. The Yankees lost 2 out of 3 to the Astros this weekend. I don't care. Great. They're not playing good baseball. Doesn't matter. The Mets are playing even worse baseball, and the Phillies are all of a sudden playing their best baseball in quite some time, and we continue to fall out of the playoff race. Suda Muzik says, Mets will make the playoffs, exclamation point. I like the positivity, Suda. Thank you, man, because I don't feel that way, but I am happy to hear from you, dude. I really appreciate it. Larry says, damn, bro, cries a lot. You keep saying that are there any tears left for the babies? Larry must be from Milwaukee, guys. I don't know. He must be a big Brewers fan that is expecting, the Brewers to finally win their first World Series of their franchise history, but it's probably not going to happen. So everybody be sure to subscribe to Larry, and we can all comment on his channel when the Brewers inevitably lose in the playoffs later this year. It will happen. It happens every year. It's like clockwork. So Larry, appreciate you tuning in and boosting my channel some more. Thanks, my man. Red Bear Fox says, Larry, what are you attempting to say in your comment because it makes zero sense? Exactly. Larry's probably drunk. Anyway, let's go over to the, not that one. Hold on a second now. Hold up. Wait a minute. Hold up. There we are. All right, let's see what the Mets had to say after another back-breaking loss. And by the way, if I have to hear Steve Gelbs calling another Mets game, I am going to lose my shit. He is so brutal at calling games, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to throw shade at him, but damn, he dismisses the moment every single time. It is tough listening to Steve Gelbs. Here is that Mets fan that someone here in the chat was talking about that was crying after the game. Hey, little guy, been there before, man. That was me about 20 years ago. Trust me, it only gets worse. Just be ready. It only gets worse. All right, let's hear what Mendy had to say about another brutal loss for the Mets.
How do you sum up this weekend, this series?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to describe, tough, frustrating, but we got to turn the page, we got to keep going. We got to find a way to start getting the victory here. That wasn't a good showing there. They pretty much outplayed us.
Well, there you go, Red Bear Fox. You were just saying it, man. It seems like your wife is onto something because she said that she doesn't think that the Mets look like a really disciplined team, and it starts with the manager. And she said it about Mendy versus Pat Murphy for the Brewers. So I'm with you, and I'm with your wife there, man. I mean, yeah, it's got to happen. It's got to start happening. Well, when? When's it going to happen, Mendy? What are you going to change about this team to get them going? And again, I don't put the blame fully on the manager for a couple of reasons. One, in the era of baseball that we are in, how much control does this dude actually have over the team, over the lineup, over the bullpen decisions? I don't think a whole lot. And that goes for every manager in baseball, not just Carlos Mendoza. And number two, this dude is not going into the batter's box and taking swings. He is not taking the mound and throwing pitches in crucial innings. So I absolve Mendy for some of the Mets issues, but at the same time, I would like to hear some fire out of this guy just for once. When you have lost now 7 in a row, you have been swept in back-to-back series, you have been nearly no hit in that stretch, you have had a game end on your potential game-tying base runner thrown out at home plate. There have been so many things the Mets are not doing well, and I would like to hear some fire out of the Mets manager. Let me go back over here again. Let's see what he has to say. I don't know what the question here was, but let's hear what Mendy.
The results aren't there on the field.
Yeah, we got to go out and do it. We want to keep saying it. The bottom line is we got to go out and do it. We want to keep saying we got the talent, we got the players, but until we start playing better and getting the job done. We continue to believe in the guys. And we will. It's tough. I know it's tough right now. It's very frustrating.
Belief. Everyone believe in each other and everything will be okay. That's the Mets mantra. Just believe. You gotta believe, right? Tug said it in 1973, right? You gotta believe. Just believe in them. Don't make any changes. Why would you do that, right? That's insane. Why would we do that? No. The Mets are just going to believe in the players. They're going to take from the Mickey Callaway playbook, and we're going to love the players more than they have ever been loved in their entire playing careers and make this a good team. Not working. Let me go back to the chat because I really love this one from my boy Andrew Acevedo. Andrew from Mets Weekly. If you guys aren't subscribed to Andrew or to Mets Weekly, I used to do that with them as well, but Andrew's awesome. He says, at least I have a fresh case of hard Mountain Dew to enjoy after work. LOL. Yes, I wish I had myself some MTN Dew to call it a night here. Unfortunately, I am tapped dry out of the Mountain Dew, but Andrew, you enjoy that, guy. Definitely go be sure to subscribe to Andrew and to Mets Weekly. Red Bear Fox says, this is a contingent of absolute clowns who are saying Hefner needs to be fired. He's done nothing wrong. The pitching doesn't have the talent. He's done all he can. I mean, again, I am open to doing whatever it takes to win again, but it definitely does not fall on the pitching. The pitching has been pretty solid lately. Tonight, yeah, it wasn't great. They give up 7 runs. Diaz gives up the game-winning homer. Helsley blows the game there with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the 8th inning. But how many times has it been flipped the other way? More often than not, it's the lineup coming short when the Mets pitching did enough, where they only gave up 2, 3, or maybe 4 runs in a game over a long stretch, a long period of time. But the Mets lineup was just absolutely anemic. It is the offense. It should fall on Eric Chavez and on Jeremy Barnes and whoever is in those hitting meetings. And, of course, on the lineup itself. 100%. Red Bear Fox says the Brewer fans are like idiot Mets fans who were overhyped when the Mets were the best in baseball. Yeah, we went through this in April and May, and now Brewer fans are coming out of the woodworks. Didn't even know Brewer fans existed. Been to that ballpark, by the way. Highly overrated. Fans are not that great. They're just there for the cheese curds and beer. Typical Midwestern. What are you gonna do? But I'm not moved by this. The Brewers are going to do what they pretty much always do. They're going to make the playoffs, and then they're going to fizzle out in the postseason. So it is what it is. Congratulations, Brewer fans, on your August World Series. He says, how is it Milwaukee overhyped when they're consistently finding ways to win and have flipped the switch since July? Okay, great. We did that last year, too. We had the best record in baseball from July last year until May of this year over whatever amount of games that was. And guess what? It didn't amount to a World Series. So congratulations. I just don't understand why there has been so much hate from Brewer fans on my streams and on a lot of the subscribers here who are Mets fans channels and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Nobody said anything bad about the Brewers until y'all came out and started acting crazy. Y'all went crazy, acting like we should be putting more respect on your name. We already were. But if you guys want to act like that, then I'll just tell you how it is, and that the Brewers are probably not going to win the World Series this year because, well, they never have, and they never seem to pull through in those big moments. But let's see what Brandon Nimmo has to say. Asked if he feels that the NL East is slipping away from the Mets. I'll answer that for you there, Brandon. Yes, it is.
Away from you a little bit.
No, I mean, we can go on a run. I mean, we still got time, but you know, it just takes putting it together, playing some good baseball. But
he sounds like he's been crying.
No, I don't think the division is slipping away.
Larry said, I've been crying. It sounds like Brandon Nimmo has been crying.
You know, we're still within shot, and you know, we've been known, this team specifically, to go on runs. So we can easily, you know, rattle off a winning streak, especially with the people we've got here. But yeah, it's going to take, obviously, turning it around.
Obviously turning it around. How do you plan to do that? You finally came out. You scored runs in each of the first 5 innings. You got staked to a 5-0 lead, 5-0 lead, and you still blew it. It's like that thing. You've seen the meme, guys, right? Where it's like all those little like buttons you press on a computer, and one of them goes on and the other goes off, and the other one goes on and the other one goes off. So it's like line up, starting pitching, bullpen. You turn on the lineup, well, the bullpen starts to go bad. And then you turn on the bullpen, and then the starting pitching goes bad. I mean, it's just insane what this team, they are the opposite of firing on all cylinders. They are completely just a train wreck right now. Let's hear from Edwin Diaz. I don't blame Edwin Diaz for blowing this game today, guys. Do you? Let me know in the comments, because honestly, it is what it is. Yeah, he came into a 6-6 game, but the Mets had a 5-0 lead in the fourth or fifth inning of this one. So, yeah, it sucks that Diaz gave up the game-winning home run, the walk-off there in the ninth inning. But honestly, I don't blame him for it. But let's hear what he had to say about the Mets' recent play.
The stretch the team's been on in the last couple of weeks.
You know, it's tough. Like, we know we got a really good team here with a really good group. We just got to stay together, stick together, keep playing baseball. We know we can turn around. When, on Tuesday we can come back and play really good baseball. So just stay together and keep fighting.
How do you just kind of...
Yeah, great. On Tuesday. They've been saying that literally since 3 Tuesdays ago, right? Oh, on Wednesday, on Tuesday, the next game out, we can really come out and play some good baseball. Okay, when is that finally going to happen, and how are you going to change that? I just don't know. I just don't see how it turns for this team the way that they have been playing. Let me go back to the chat over here. I don't think I missed a whole lot. Buzz says, Brewers will fold in October. CB 24230, I don't know. Brewers always lose in October. Mets are still trash, though. Yeah, the Mets are definitely trash. I'm glad, though, you can at least recognize that the Brewers are probably going to do what they always do in the postseason and fold. You remember that play from Trent Grisham out in right field against the Nationals that led to their World Series in 2019? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I bring up a bad topic? How about Pete Alonso's home run last year that knocked you guys out of the playoffs? Ooh. Sorry, Brewer fans. Anyway, JK says, rather fold in October than in August. Okay, for sure, dude. Let me know how that goes for you. See you in October. Well, maybe only for a game or two, and then you guys will lose like you always do. But appreciate all the Brewer fans tuning in here. You guys are an interesting bunch. Gave you all the credit in the world on Friday, and you still were upset about it for some reason. But let's go over to the box score, guys. It was a brutal game for the Mets. Obviously, they blow the 5-0 lead. The Phillies win against the Rangers. They sweep that series, and the Mets are now 5.5 games back in the National League East. They are clinging to a 1.5 game lead for the final wild card spot in the National League. It was looking like a good game for the Mets today, guys. 2 runs in the first inning. RBI hit from Juan Soto. Another one there. I think it was from Brandon Nimmo, if I'm not mistaken. And then they score on a solo homer from Beatty. First home run of his Mets career for Cedric Mullins in the third. And then another RBI hit from Mauricio in the fourth. The Mets get another in the fifth to go up in front 6-3 on a bloop double from Pete Alonso. And still somehow the Brewers find a way to come back and win this game. William Contreras, that pain in the ass that he is with 2 home runs ever since he was with the Braves, that ugly frog looking mother effer, always seems to kill the Mets. There was a little while there where he wasn't beating us so bad, but yeah, he took it to us this series. So got to give credit where it's due to William Contreras. He absolutely took it to the Mets. Bad day for Sean Manaea. Let's call it how it is. His first 4 innings were really solid, or I'm sorry, his first 3 innings were really, really solid. And then in the fourth, ran into some trouble, had 2 outs, 2 strikes, ends up giving up a 2-out single to the porno mustache catcher on the Brewers, and that made it 5-3. And then starts the 5th inning, gives up a leadoff base hit. Reed Garrett comes on in relief. That's when he gives up the 2-run homer to Contreras to make it 6-5. And then from there, the Mets offense just basically went limp. And I don't know it for a fact, but if I'm not mistaken, I think the Mets may have went without a base runner from the 6th inning on. So give me a second here while I try to figure this out. But I am pretty sure that after the Mets scored their 6 runs in the first couple of innings, they were pretty much all done from there in terms of any types of threats in this game. So 6th inning, they go 1, 2, 3. Or actually, they might have gone all the way back. Yeah. Okay, so 5th inning is when the Mets scored their last run. 6th inning, Beatty gets called out on strikes, curveball right down the middle. Luis Torrens grounds out, Lindor flies out, 1, 2, 3. 7th inning, Soto lines out. Nimmo walked. Okay, so they have 1 base runner there in the 7th inning. Alonso flew out, and then Jeff McNeil flew out. So they had 4 batters up in that inning. And then in the 8th inning, They go 1-2-3. Mauricio strikeout, Mullen strikeout, Beatty ground out, and then in the ninth, 1-2-3 again. It was Alvarez, Lindor. No, I'm sorry. Soto did get a walk. So 2 base runners, both via the walk from the 6th inning on in this game for the Mets. Who's surprised? Who is surprised? Despite having a 5-0 lead, despite having a 6-3 lead, the bullpen leaks oil and the Mets offense turns it off after the 5th inning. Just 2 base runners in the final 4 innings of this game, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Not surprised whatsoever by this team. Let me go back over here to the chat. Joe says Brewers need to fix that leaky roof. Yeah, I don't know about Miller Park or whatever they call it, All-American Family Field. Let's see. Buzz Bass says, yep, JK, like last season, yep, when the Mets beat the Brewers. Do you remember that, guys? When Pete Alonso hit that walk-off home run on Devin Williams? Yeah. Or game-winning home run? Yeah, that was pretty fun. At least for us. I guess probably not for many Brewer fans. CB says, hey, the Brewers win, I'll eat my foot. Oh, CB coming from the top rope. If the Brewers win the World Series this year, I will eat this red pen with all of the ink still inside of it. How's that, Brewer fans? Subscribe to my channel. You don't have to watch any of my videos, but I'll keep making them throughout the postseason. And if the Brewers win the World Series, I will eat this red pen with all of its content still intact. That is how confident I am in them not winning the World Series this year, just like every other year on their 60, 70-year existence as an organization. Put my money where my mouth is. That's how you do it right there. Red Bear Fox says, Tony, should Gold Glove Pete have made that play on that game-tying hit? Man, you know what? It's funny because he makes the diving play immediately after the game-tying hit gets past him. And I said to my buddy who I was on the phone with, he should have made that play. He should have made that play. It was an in-between hop, but he should have been able to knock that ball down at the very least. I think it was runners at second and third. It might have been, no, it must have been first and second. But if he knocks that ball down and keeps it in the infield, the game doesn't get tied there. So who knows what happens from there. But he should have 100% made that play, Red Bear Fox. He's not a Gold Glover. We know that. He makes the tremendous play after that. But a Gold Glover makes that play with the game on the line. And Pete Alonso didn't. So very, very annoying. Let's see. Where am I at? Stanley Babbage, what's up? Tony, is the time to bring up Sproat and McLean. Sproat and or McLean will be brought up this week. I guarantee it. Today is August 10th. On the 15th is when the Mets can call up a player, and any team in baseball can call up players from the minor leagues without losing an extra year of control of them on their roster. So the Mets, I think, are 100% going to call up Sproat and or Nolan McLean, and they will probably bump Montas to the bullpen. I don't know how they navigate it from there because they have Oscar Brazaban getting stretched out in AAA. They obviously can't put Frankie Montas into the minor leagues. He has no minor league options with his major league deal. So maybe Brazaban doesn't get called back up, or the Mets finally bite the bullet and eat the contract on Frankie Montas. Unfortunately, that would mean that they have to pay him $17 million next season with his player option for him to go pitch elsewhere or just to simply be out of baseball and a free agent. But I do believe that Nolan McLean and Brandon Sproat will be called up later this week. Let's see. CB says, as soon as they tied it up today, I've never been so sure the Mets were going to lose. Yep, 100% CB. This is how the Mets go. You just, as a Mets fan, know when the tide is turning. I thought maybe it was turning for the Mets. They get an infield single from Luis Torrens that just kind of hugged along the third baseline, and I'm like, those are the kind of plays that have been going against us for so long and not going in our favor. Maybe this is it. We're winning 5-0. Maybe this is where everything turns for this team. And nope, we end up blowing it in the most familiar fashion that we have seen for so many weeks recently. Moonshadow. Baseball is strange. All the bad feelings we have can go out with a 12-game winning streak, and we take back first. You gotta believe. I love the positivity, Moonshadow. I am not going to jump on that train with you, but I appreciate that positivity. We need a little bit in this stream right now. Unfortunately, the Mets have not really inspired us a whole lot lately or given us any inkling that they are going to go on a 12-game winning streak. But you are right about that. The Mets could easily go on a huge winning streak right now and erase all of this bad mojo and get as hot as the Brewers are right now, because apparently they're the best team that baseball has ever seen, according to all the Brewer fans here in the stream and on my recent ones. But they're going to have to go out and do it. And they keep saying it in their post-game interviews. We just got to go out and do it. Well, when's it going to happen? I don't know, but I hope you're right, Moonshadow. D-Rails, one of the OGs from the chat. D-Rails says, Tony, what's up, bro? I think the Mets are cursed. I'm telling you, man, there was somebody, like maybe a gypsy in the middle of Manhattan in 1986 when the Mets were losing to the Red Sox in Game 7 or Game 6 of that World Series, that said, if you give me this World Series, we will never get another one. And that gypsy granted the person the wish, because the Mets have been nothing but a cursed organization, a cursed snake-bitten franchise since their previous World Series in 1986. That took an absolute miracle miscue from the Red Sox and Bill Buckner to go on and win it. And even in Game 7, trailing 3-0 before going on to win that game. I mean, it is true, D-Rels. You are spitting facts. I appreciate you being here, D-Rels. One of the OGs of my Tony Metro streams here. Red Bear Fox says, years ago when Kansas City beat the Mets in the World Series, I will never forget how they said that because they lost the World Series the year before, it motivated them in the new season to actually win it all. Mets make NLCS ... Well, true, they kept a lot of that core intact, and while the Mets have, for the most part, something is missing from this recipe. There is something missing from this Mets roster, and I don't know what it is. I don't know how to pinpoint it. I don't know if it's the starting rotation and their inability to go past the 5th inning. I don't know if it's the lineup and why they're hitting so poorly with runners in scoring position. I don't know if it's because maybe Francisco Lindor is not the same Francisco Lindor ever since he broke his toe in Los Angeles, but something about this Mets roster is missing an ingredient. It's like when you bake a cake and it comes out flat, it's not fluffy and soft like it should be. That's what this Mets team is. It seemed like we went to the grocery store and we got everything that we needed to make a World Series team, to make a delicious gooey butter cake. But that has not been the case. This team has come out of the oven looking like an absolute disaster. And I can't pinpoint what it is, but David Stearns better be able to, and he better be able to fast. Back to the chat. Let's see. Red Bear again last season, and then show that they are weak shits this season. Yeah, exactly. CB says that KC team had heart and a lineup that was tough to beat. 100%. That was a ridiculous lineup. In fact, I have the Eric Hosmer bobblehead from the 2015 World Series 10-year anniversary because I went to Kansas City to watch the Mets play the Royals about 3 weeks ago, right before the All-Star break. So I have 2 of those, by the way. If you're a Royals fan and you want to buy it off me, let me know. They're sitting right here next to me on my desk here. But anyway, let me go back here. Stanley says Stearns didn't do enough at the trade deadline. He did a great job of improving this bullpen. He acquired Cedric Mullins, and that was it. And we thought that was a big help because the bullpen was really leaking, but we all wanted a starting pitcher. We all thought we needed another bat. We all knew Cedric Mullins has not been very good with the Orioles, not only this year, but for really the last 2 years before this one in 2025. And the Mets are looking like they are out of answers here, both hitting-wise, pitching-wise, starting rotation, bullpen. Doesn't seem to matter. The Mets finding a new way to lose every single game. So, Stanley, you are not wrong about that. DH Ben says, when the Mets were up 5-0, I thought the Brewers have them right where they want them. And I thought when they were winning 5-0, great, go prove it to me. Go up 8-0, and then maybe I'll feel comfortable. But they didn't. It became 5-3, then it was 6-3, then it was 6-5, and then eventually, finally, the Brewers tied the game in the 8th inning and then walk it off in the 9th. So, nothing new. Not that I'm not familiar with as a Mets fan. Guys, be sure to leave this video a like if you have not already. I really do appreciate it. Helps me out a lot. Keep the streams going here. If you want to send in a little tip to the stream, I appreciate that as well. All goes to Mookie's Bone Fund. Mookie, my 99-pound German Shepherd. He's not quite triple digits. He's a skinny boy. He's laying here next to me, but really appreciate that. You could either do the super chats here on YouTube, or you could go to the link in the description of this video that will take you to my tip jar. So really, really appreciate that, guys, as well. Jimmy James C says, I don't think there was much they could do at the deadline. Stearns didn't do enough before the season. Yeah, I mean, that is actually a really good point, Jimmy. They could have done more in the offseason, but again, I think this came down to Steve Cohen forced David Stearns' hand to go out and sign Juan Soto, or more so, Steve Cohen just outright went and signed Juan Soto. He made sure he had the highest offer no matter what. He made sure that he got his white whale, his Moby Dick, if you will. He was not going to let any other team bid more for Juan Soto, and that's how they ended up with him. But if you were David Stearns, I would imagine he probably would have spread that $765 million, that $55 million plus annual average value cap or hit that comes every year now for Soto over the next 15 seasons. He probably would have spread that out over a couple different players, not only for this lineup, but for the rotation, maybe another bullpen piece in addition to AJ Minter, who they added and, of course, lost in the middle of March or April. I guess it would have been May, somewhere around there. But I think that it falls more on what they didn't do in the offseason than what they didn't do at the deadline, Jimmy, to your point. So very, very good point there from you, Jimmy James C. I am totally in lockstep with you. Let's see. CB says he's wasting away in soccer league. Who are we talking about? Jeff Lunhow to build this team. Bring in Jeff. I don't know who that is. I don't know if that's a joke. Chazin David Ekins Halevi. Wow, that is a long name. He says, just take a look at their record since June 13th. That's all I have to say. You are 100% on the point, Jazin. It has been brutal, man. The Mets have been a dumpster fire pretty much since June. This was a team that built up against some really bad ones in the beginning of the season, and now are being completely exposed by the likes of some real good teams, some playoff hopefuls, and we are now starting to find ourselves, see our playoff hopes fading very, very fast. Let's see, Jasmine again with team will not win this year or any year until they remove their woke mind bias from the organization. Maybe, yeah, that could be it. Guys, let me know in the chat how you feeling. Did the Mets make the playoffs here in 2025? We have a month and a half left. Let me just pull up the Mets schedule really quick, and then we're going to wrap things up because we've been going for a little over an hour now, actually an hour and 10 minutes. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. Again, leave this video a like if you have not already. We're already at 19. I would love to get it up to 30 if we can make that happen. I see there's 49 people watching right now. We've been up as high as 65. So thank you so much to all of you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. If you're a Mets fan, if you're a Brewers fan, I've been a little tough on you Brewer fans if you are watching. You guys have a very, very solid team. I feel like some of the fans have come out and been a little disrespectful, and so I'm going to give it to you, but you got a good team. And if you're a Mets fan, man, let me know how you feeling. Are they going to make the playoffs in 2025? Because the way they're playing now, I don't think that's going to be the case. CB says the guy who turned the Astros into a real franchise, that's Jeff Lunhow. Yes, you are right. Look, David Stearns has his work cut out for him. You know, we thought this team was going to make it, but obviously there's still a lot to work on. Chazin said, Tony, I said June 13th for a reason. Do you get my drift? I don't necessarily. I believe I do, but I'm not going to acknowledge any of that I think you're talking about. So anyway, let's take a look at the Mets schedule here for the rest of August. Mets are off tomorrow. Thank God, because I can't watch another Mets game at this point. They take on the Braves back at Citi Field. 3 night games in a row Tuesday. It will be Clay Holmes going up on the bump against Spencer Strider, who has completely owned us. So we got 3 with the Braves, who, despite being 15 games under 500 this year, and despite every other team in baseball having no problem beating them, the Mets just cannot get past that bugaboo and exercise those demons. Then they welcome in the Mariners for 3 games at Citi Field, and obviously the Mariners are one of the better teams in the American League. They are fighting for an American League wild card spot. I don't think they're too far out of the AL West either. The Mets then finally go on the road. They will take on the Nats for 3, which, hey, look, the Nats have not been playing good ball, but we got handed 2 really, really bad losses against Washington earlier this year, and then 3 more with Atlanta down at the House of Horrors, and then the real party starts. 3 games against the Phillies at Citi Field. How far in the standings will the Mets be behind Philadelphia by that point? Who really knows? But that is 2 weeks from tomorrow before they have 4 games with the Marlins. And who knows, at that point, maybe the Marlins have already leapfrogged the Mets in the standings in the NL East for second place. I don't know. It is entirely all on the table. But guys, the Mets need to start winning games. Who cares about scoreboard watching at this point? The Reds can continue losing. The Phillies can continue doing what they're doing. It doesn't matter. If the Mets don't start winning games and taking care of their own business, getting their own house in order, none of this will matter. Let me go back to the chat, and then we are going to wrap things up here. Let's see. Stanley Babbage says Lindor has been struggling 100%. It's been really bad. Obe Spring 1982. Uncle Stevie's wife likes Mendoza because she speaks Spanish. Possible. It is possible. Como se llama? CB says their schedule is tough to end the year. Yes, September is even more brutal than what we are seeing here for the end of August, with 3 with Philly, 4 with the Marlins, 6 with Atlanta, and then 3 with the Mariners. But it gets even more difficult. I'll really quickly run through it. 3 with Detroit, although they have definitely fallen off. 3 with Cincinnati, which is going to be crucial depending on how things go for the rest of the next couple weeks leading into that series. But obviously Cincinnati gave us fits out of the All-Star break at Citi Field, and they are chasing us in the standings. We have then a 4-game road a 4-game series against the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park, smack dab in the middle of September. 3 with the Rangers, who just got swept by the Phillies, so I don't see why the Mets couldn't beat them, but I don't know. We are the Mets, so we'll probably find a way to blow that. And then 3 with San Diego, 3 with Washington, 3 with the Cubs, and 3 with the Marlins. Those final 2 series of the season are on the road. So it's going to be a tough stretch, 100%, man. 100%. Obe Spring, you're not wrong at all. Or, who said that? CB, you said that. DH Benz, Brewers can bear. I feel for you, man. Feel there. Brewers are getting it done. Lockridge went over 3, but saw 33 pitches. He contributed. You know what, man? Good for the Brewers. Having a feisty lineup that sees a lot of pitches, that really contributes. That is not something that the Mets can say about themselves. So 100%. Congrats to you guys. You guys earned this series sweep 100%. And we'll see what happens in October. Let me see back here. Jimmy James C, I catch your drift, Chaz, and you're completely right. Jimmy James C says they need a 10-game winning streak. Chaz, and get a real manager in here like Wally Backman and let him run the goddamn team. It's possible. I would love to see Wally back, right? Wouldn't that be cool, throwing bats on the field? CB says the Jets could have more wins in August than the Mets. Oh my God. You just had to come from the top rope with that one, didn't you, huh? You had to put my 2 most passionate fans, or the teams I'm most passionate about, in the Mets and the Jets. And the Jets beating the Packers yesterday 30-10 in the preseason against my Mets. I'm gonna go crazy here, guys. I'm gonna go absolutely crazy here if I continue thinking about Jets season. I can't. Not without the Mets are playing right now. Let's see. Red Bear Fox, hot take. Lindor has not been as good as the media has made him seem. 3 out of 5 seasons he's hit under 260, and 2 of those seasons were under 250. 3 seasons of the offensive war at 1 or lower. It has been a massively disappointing season for Lindor. It's either the toe or his back never truly recovered from last year when he got injured in September. I don't know, but something about Lindor, both at the plate and in the field and running the bases, does not look like the Francisco Lindor that was having an MVP run leading into the final month of 2024. You're 100% on the mark there, Red Bear. 4-1-4 Decker Soto Shuffle. Haven't seen a whole lot of that, which is very annoying. And then CB says, same here, man. Imagine if the Jets are good this year. Again, I say this about the Jets. We enter the season with no expectations, which is something we couldn't have said those past 2 years with Aaron Rodgers commanding that room. So can't be disappointed if you don't have any expectations, right, guys? But anyway, I am going to wrap it up here. We have been going for almost an hour and a half. I appreciate you guys all tuning in. I don't have time to thank every single one of you in the comments, but you guys were all awesome. We got 45 people watching right now. We got 19 likes. Let's get that up to 30. If you have not already liked this stream, please be sure to go do that right now. If you want to tip this stream and keep things going here on my channel, I appreciate that as well. It goes all to Mookie here for his bones. So if you want to send me a super chat, I appreciate that. If you want to send a tip to the tip jar, you can do that as well. Link to that is in the description of this video. But guys, the Mets have lost 7 games in a row. They have lost 10 of 11. They are now 5.5 games back of the Phillies in the National League East and clinging to a 1.5 game lead for the final wild card spot in the National League above the Reds. So hopefully brighter days are ahead, but they're probably not. I don't see how this turns. It has been brutal. But hey, even you Brewer fans that were giving us a lot of grief and kind of puffing your chests out more than you should be at this point, congratulations to you guys. It was fun. I appreciate you guys tuning into my stream as well. So thank you to you guys as well. But hopefully the Mets do turn it around. We'll have more content on the channel tomorrow. So be sure to subscribe if you're not already. And then, of course, another post-game recap on Tuesday as the Mets look to finally end this horrible stretch of baseball against the Atlanta Braves. Not holding my breath on that one. And we'll have another post-game recap then. But until then, guys, I am Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.